We go from one badass guest to another, joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, fresh off of his appearance on the Broken Skull Sessions. It is none other than the world's strongest man, the world's strongest Longhorn fan, WWE Hall of Famer, and the co-host of SiriusXM Busted Open with Dave LaGreca. It is our friend Mark Henry. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing real good. I mean, I got to follow SoCal Val.
You get to follow SoCal Val, yes.
That's my homie, man.
She's awesome. Have you seen this YouTube show that they're doing? She and Mickey James and Lisa Marie?
I have not.
Oh, you got to check it out. There's some good stuff.
I'm definitely going to check it out. You know, we've done a lot of autograph signings and personal appearances and stuff like that for GalaxyCon.
Right.
And she sometimes hosts some of the events. So, yeah, man, I'm very familiar with SoCal Val.
Yeah, she was really cool. It was great to talk to her. You know, she's all the way in the UK now, so it was fun to talk to her, though.
Wait a minute, dude. That show must be pretty good because you won't watch Total Divas, but you'll watch this.
Well, I like Mickey James. I've hung out with all three of them at one time. No, not SoCal Val. This was the first time I ever talked to SoCal Val.
Oh, okay.
But Mickey James, we talked to at the Super Bowl, and we've met Lisa Marie several times at different WrestleCons and all that good stuff. So, Mark, first of all, fantastic show with you and Stone Cold on the Broken Skull Sessions. What was that? Just talk about that. Reflect on that experience.
You know what, man? Steve and I, both Texas boys, both have a love for sports and a love for humanity. And Steve is one of those guys where we didn't talk a lot early in my wrestling career because, you know, the brass kind of went one way and then the middle of the road guys like myself went another. And then I started to rise up the leaderboard, if you will. And Steve was he was one of the ones that was like, you know what, man, like you could do this. You just have to, you know, be more serious. And I was like, wanted to be playful, jovial, but I realized that he was right. And here we are later in our careers and finally got a chance to hang out and, you know, talk shop. And we got a lot in common besides being Texas boys that like sports and pro wrestling. So, you know, having a lot of the same interests, we've been chatting it up. And, you know, I did his podcast and he was like, man, this is the best podcast I ever did, man. I didn't know all this stuff about you.
What?
And he was like, you ever think about, you know, if you would, I'd love to have you come on the TV show that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
that's how it came about.
Yeah, it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that I didn't know about you, and a lot of stuff made a lot of sense.
Well, I was going to ask you, Mark, what was one of the things that really surprised you that you both really connected on that you were like, hey, I didn't think we would connect on that, but yeah, here we are.
You know what? The biggest thing that's probably outside of wrestling is Steve is he's a big fan of environments. Like he likes experiences like I do. I don't like stuff. I never bought expensive cars. I never did the, you know, my house is bigger than your house. I never was that guy. But what I is I want a great experience. I want to go to the White House. I want to go to the Kremlin. You know, I want to be in the room with, you know, Bill Gates so I could walk up and ask him a question. You know, I want to go to a restaurant where the food is so good that you got to go kiss the chef. You know, like I'm an experienced guy and Steve is an experienced guy too.
Yeah, you know, I get that. I'll be honest, that's a huge reason why I do sports radio, is for the experiences as much as anything. You know, I get to say, yes, I have been on a radio row with, Evander Holyfield, or meet Edward James Olmos, or any football Hall of Famer. You smoke cigars with Jack Youngblood. That's experiences like that. Just you can't match. So I totally get that. And you mentioned the Kiss the Chef thing. You remember Dat Wynn, former A&M football player. So we were first time I went to Super Bowl is in New Orleans, and Dat took us to this one place called Giacomo's in New Orleans. And he goes straight into the kitchen because, of course, his parents run a restaurant, and he brings the chef out, and the chef brings out some samples, and he's, it's almost like he's playing host. I could just see you doing something like that in some city, with a bunch of friends.
In every one of them.
Because I know how big of a foodie you are. I know. I mean, that's
you name a city, and Giacomo's. I've been there, but usually when I go to New Orleans, I'm more of a Willie Mae Scotch House guy.
Okay.
Or Drago's. I'm an experienced guy. I like the restaurant scene. I like the chefs. I like the bartenders. And I suggested that Steve stay at a certain hotel here because of the experiences and the food. And he just said, man, and that's when I discovered that he was a experienced guy.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. Talked with WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry. Was there a story that you were ready to share on the show that you didn't get to share?
We covered a lot of ground. It took us, we were sitting there for 3.5 hours, and you'll see clips of some of the things that go on that didn't make the show.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff that actually came out. I don't think that there's nothing in particular that didn't get told. If there's a couple of experiences
right
that I've had that I couldn't share,
right,
just out of confidentiality,
and
he understood.
I understand. Those are the best interviews because, like you and I know you and I, if we were sitting here, if we didn't have any other subject, we just go for hours and, just let it go. And I love interviews like that. So, one of the things that you guys did cover on the show was, your thoughts on Keith Lee, who's in the NXT North American champion. We're very familiar with him, having worked in Inspire Pro Wrestling. He worked Inspire for so long, worked on the indie scene, one of our good friends. And one of the things you mentioned was that he was bringing back the big man magic, and it was so cool to talk about that. Talk about it for a second, and talk about, you mentioned about he has the potential. Is there a piece of advice that you have given him that you could share with us about embracing that big man magic that he's bringing back?
I think that control is overrated in wrestling. You find that the wrestlers that are under control, that edit themselves, that they want to be polished. They want to look like they never made a mistake before. Those guys, they're really holding back. Because, to sum it up, if I walked up to Keith Lee and I slapped the shit out of him, he would change and he would be Keith Lee, the man, not the wrestler. That's what you have to be in pro wrestling. You have to have all the skills of a wrestler, but you got to be the man turned up a couple of notches. And any man worth of salt in this world, if you slap their face, you're going to find out who that real man is. The man behind the eyes, behind the glasses, behind the suits, behind the polished education. You're going to find out who that guy is. And Keith Lee, I don't think has unlocked that guy yet.
Now, Mark, I can't imagine, given your reputation, that anybody would dare try to do that to you. So I'm assuming somebody told you this. You had this done? Wow.
I've had it done.
I could not imagine.
I mean, and from you wouldn't think who the persons would be that push your buttons and tell you to, I told a story. Vince McMahon pushed my buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And there's been several times where we had conversations, and he didn't imply like you should fear me, but I was like, you can't whoop me. I don't care how much money you got. You can't whoop me. And he laughs his butt off. He's like, that's the guy I want to see on TV. And when people see that guy, they don't just fear him, they respect him. And they're interested in what that person has to say. And sometimes it's going to come out broken. It's going to come out unpolished. When I get angry, I can't put a sentence together really. And that's okay. It's okay. It's real. And Keith, he comes out, he's very deliberate, he's very matter of fact. But if I was wrestling in my prime, I would slap his face. And I'd be ready to take whatever it came with it. I used to do, when I was in Louisville, Kentucky for Ohio Valley Wrestling,
mm-hmm.
I used to do something called final exam time. And guys I'd be like, all right, it's final exam time. And everybody, oh my God. And every shooter, every martial artist that's been in the business from that era to now, I would be like, hey man, it's final exam time. I want to see if that karate shit works on me. I fought Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley, Don Fry, Ron Waterman,
Whoa.
MMA guys,
yeah,
and everything in between. I just want to see if it'll work because I'm crazy that way. And there's a lot of guys that they've never experienced that guy. Rip Rogers, he was probably 60 or 50 something at the late 50s at the time. Rip Rogers slapped my face and cussed me like a $2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Rip Rogers.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, yeah, and I'm not sure I want to see a crazy Mark Henry.
But you know what the thing is, that's what people want to see.
Right. It's fans.
It's to the extremes. Sometimes that crazy dude is being funny. Sometimes that guy is being emotional.
Right.
Sometimes that guy is angry and wants revenge. But you just got to find out who that guy is. And I think if you're under control all the time and you don't know that that's unlocked, that that's there, then, you're going to hover the middle of the road. And I've talked to him. I try to mentor all the guys.
Right.
But, I'm not wrestling. Somebody's going to have to challenge him.
I understand. Talking with Mark Henry, the world's strongest man. Follow him on Twitter at @TheMarkHenry. One of the things I admired most watching that episode was the emotion that you displayed and talking about how emotional you get. Is that something that you wanted to display the emotion? Was that intentional that you wanted to show people how emotional you can get?
No, not at all. I wear my heart on my sleeve. When I talk about the people that I love, I cry.
Yeah.
When I talk about the people that I respect, I show reverence. I cry. I'm emotional. But the thing about me that's different than most people is I'm better when I'm emotional. Some people, they lose the ability to control it. And when I'm emotional, I forget that I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm emotional, you can hit me as hard as you can hit me, and it dulls the pain somehow. My heart makes me, I can't say bulletproof, but, it gives me something extra. And I thrive on that emotion. I can get emotional about talking about me getting emotional.
Right.
And a lot of that was my mother. My mother was very emotional and wore her heart on her sleeve, and and I just followed suit. But I for a long time I thought me being emotional made me weak. But the older I got, the more I found out that a man that's not afraid to show that he has sympathy and empathy is usually the strongest one, especially if you're able to go to bat for people. And I've stood up for people that they probably didn't deserve my attention, right, but I felt like it was right to do.
And that's where
I hope that's what everybody's doing now, as opposed to the way it was pre-George Brown's death.
Absolutely.
Stand up for your friends, your people, regardless of what color they are, what ethnicity, if you will, what sexual orientation. Like, we just need to stand up. People need to stand up, and I don't have a problem showing that.
I couldn't agree more. You and I have that similarity. My mother was, you love everybody. Doesn't matter. You just love everybody. And that was the thing. Your mom was just like that. So that's, you and I are very similar in that, and I could be more proud to have that similarity with you. Talk with Mark Henry. Before I let you go.
Oh, I had it.
Oh, you did have something. Okay, hold on.
I did. Mark, I was watching some video about earlier in your career earlier today, coincidentally. I know it's a little random, do you think you could still fold a frying pan in half?
Yeah, I've done it in shows before. It depends on what grade of pan it is. You go to one of these high level shops.
They come in grades.
They come in different grades.
I did not know this.
Value, like if it's over $60, mm-hmm, then you're gonna have to be me to bend it.
You're like top of the line vendor, man. Nobody can replicate you.
Yeah, you go to H-E-B or Walmart or Target or somewhere and buy a $35 pan. If you can get by the fact that it makes your hands hurt and you can avoid the pain, then I can show you how to do it. It's just sucking it up and getting through the pain. You got to be a little strong too, but a lot of it is will. I feel like if I was a superhero, I would be the Green Lantern, because his strength is only governed by his willpower. And that's something that I've always had. Anybody that's a power lifter that's listening to me, they'll tell you the deadlift, 90% heart, gut, and balls. You gotta pull it till your hands hurt and bleed and calluses tear, and you still pulling. And that's just will. I want to not fail in front of people more than I want to win. It's like you just have to have that in you or not.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Mark Henry, before I let you go, you were doing the YouTube show, Not a Sports Show, with franchise. Still doing it. Okay, good. Because I got asked about that a couple days ago, and I thought it was still going on, but I just want to make sure. So, Not a Sports Show on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. Any fun guests coming up?
We're gonna have Chris Cavanetti, and we had James Roday from Psych, and now we're gonna have Dule Hill from Psych.
Nice.
So those two are coming up, and I'm excited about it. They both fun people. I love the show. Not a Sports One. If you go on to YouTube and look up at Not a Sports One, it's a fun show, and I had the fortune of having you on the show. What a great episode!
I appreciate that. That was a lot of fun. Talk with Bart Scott and right around draft time, so that was really good.
And then the next show we had Charles Davis come on.
Mm-hmm. Saw that.
Man, he talked about being the voice of Madden. And it's just like anybody that's a Madden football fan, if you listen to that show, you're gonna be blessed. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Charles Davis, fantastic broadcaster. Really is. He is Mark Henry. You find him on Twitter at the Mark Henry. Listen to him every day on SiriusXM Busted Open, and catch him on the Broken Skull Sessions. Catch that episode. It will be entertaining. It will move you. Fantastic episode. You'll hear some great stories. Mark, as always, such a pleasure to talk to you.
Always, man. Anytime,
man. I hope we get to see each other on the sideline soon. We hope football season starts on time, and we'll get to Lake Travis game. Hey, by the way, because I know you're friends with the Undertaker, so I have to ask, what did you think of the Undertaker, saying this is it?
You know what, man? At first, to be honest, I felt gypped. I felt like, I should have been able to celebrate him stepping down and be there when he did it, and to pay homage to, arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. I still hope that when this is over with, that there is a Undertaker Day or something where everybody can go and just, maybe watch classic wrestling matches, and to see him perform again as some capacity, even if it's on video. So that's about it.
Man, that's good. You'll have to bring him to a Lake Travis game this season if we have him.
Oh, he'll come see Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, again, thanks so much. All the best to you and your family. We'll talk again soon.
All right, Stu.